Hey everyone! Today I'm going to give you some tips on how to be an effective communicator in English, even if you still make lots of grammar mistakes and lack vocabulary. Most people think powerful communication means flawless language skills, but actually there are other important factors that will make people want to talk to you. But first, let me tell you a personal story to better illustrate my point. It's a story about failure. My failure to help a friend fix her essay that she wrote for her English class. Years ago, when I first started college, I met a girl from another country in the math class I was taking. The two of us were the only non-native speakers in the class, and maybe because of that, we quickly bonded. A few weeks after we met, my new friend asked me to help her correct her essay she wrote for her English class. I told her that I've been planning to major in journalism, so she trusted that I would give her valuable feedback. I took her paper home and promised to read it that night. The first thought I had when I started reading was that this essay needed to be completely rewritten. There was hardly a sentence without a grammar mistake. But I kept reading and I was captivated. She shared her heartbreaking story about being married off when she was a teenager and coming to America to join the stranger who was now her husband. She wrote about not knowing a word of English when she was in the hospital giving birth to her first child. And she also shared how, despite her husband's objections, she signed up for English classes because she wanted to regain her independence. The story went on, and the more I read, the more fascinated I was by the strength and determination of this young woman. I no longer saw grammar and spelling mistakes. What I saw was a human being sharing her life in an incredibly raw and vulnerable way. Once I finished reading, I started thinking about how to help my friend. I corrected all grammar and spelling, but then I noticed that some of the authenticity that made this work gut-punching impactful was gone. In the end, I did help my friend to get a good grade in her class because, after all, in English classes, grammar and spelling mistakes are not acceptable. But along with the mistakes, the rawness of the essay was somewhat lost. Now I understand that back then I focused too much on grammar and spelling. What mattered more, however, was my friend's authenticity and desire to share. Now, when I ask my students why they're hesitant to speak in English, many of them say that they are afraid of making mistakes. Unfortunately, there is a broad misconception about what makes someone a good communicator or an excellent speaker. Many people think that it's the ability to produce grammatically correct sentences. But mistakes don't really matter that much if the message comes from the heart. So here are my tips on how to be an impactful communicator, even if your English is not perfect. Tip number 1 is to listen. When we think of communication, oftentimes the first thing that comes to mind is speaking. But the ability to listen effectively is equally important. When you really care about what the other person has to say, not only would you be perceived to be a better communicator, but you will also learn new things and way of expression. Put your cell phone away, look at the person who is speaking, and listen without thinking about how to respond. Sometimes people just need to feel heard and understood. My next advice is to turn off the survival brain and turn on the creative one. When you focus on your mistakes, you're constantly trying to survive in the conversation. This prevents the creative part of your brain from shining. Remember that the core of your message is more important than using fancy words and perfect grammar. Instead of, "My English is bad and no one listens to me," tell yourself, "What I have to say might help someone else." If you forget about yourself and focus on others, you will find it easier to express your ideas and you will realize that no one is judging your English. Tip number 3 is to choose abundance over scarcity. If you can communicate in English at all, it means that you have already learned a certain amount of words and grammar. Instead of focusing on the expressions you still don't know, celebrate the ones you do. If you're able to come this far, you're capable of going way further. Just be patient and celebrate your achievements. Next is to stay curious. When you're curious about the world, you seek to learn more. And when you're genuinely interested in what others have to say, people will want to talk to you. Ask questions, share your knowledge, and accept that you don't have to be perfect in order to be influential. And last but not least is to be empathetic. Empathy is the ability to understand and share others' feelings. If you're empathetic, you will be able to see if your conversation partner doesn't understand what you're trying to say. If you see that the person you are speaking with looks slightly confused, modify your message by choosing different words. Good communicators look not only for verbal feedback, but they are able to read the other person's body language as well. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever stopped yourself from saying something because you didn't feel ready to speak up? Let me know in the comment section below. If you found this video helpful, click on the like button and consider sharing it with someone who would find it beneficial. Also, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it yet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.